So real quick, before the video starts, I forgot to say something. There's one downside to keeping clownfish, and that's the fact that once they're adults and they've been in the tank for a little while, they will become territorial and they will bite you when you go to clean the tank. Although this can be lessened by just turning the lights off and cleaning their tank in early morning. Keep in mind, these fish are very small and they're not going to do anything besides peck at you slightly. Without any further ado, let's get into the video. Hello guys, welcome to today's Let's Talk Aquatics. In today's video, we're going to be talking about one of the easiest to care for fish that you could possibly keep in a saltwater tank, clownfish. Particularly a pair of clownfish, because getting one is absolutely no fun. So throughout this video, when I'm talking about bare minimum this, what I recommend for this and that, I'm basing it off of what I'm about to say. So I'm going to assume you have a pair of clownfish, as it is always better to have two, and it's more interesting to have two in my opinion. I'm also going to be assuming that you don't have a bunch of other fish in the tank which are putting a huge bioload on it. Maybe a few smaller fish, but nothing big. So bare minimum size tank for a pair of clownfish is, I would say, 20 gallons. I have to recommend a 20 gallon long, as they definitely prefer to swim left to right rather than up and down. Although I don't exactly suppose your clownfish is going to be complaining either way. Now, if you were going to be getting just a single clownfish, which of course I wouldn't recommend, it would probably be fine in a 10 gallon, although even then that is probably pushing it, and you should just go ahead and get a 20 gallon like this one on screen right now. And that's basically all I have to say about bare minimum tank size. I'm going to sum everything up one more time. At least 20 gallons for a pair of clownfish, bare minimum, and I'd recommend a 20 gallon long. That's it. Now, what kind of fish could you have in with your clownfish? Basically anything. I'd personally recommend going with a species of goby or blenny, as they will fit in really well with your pair of clownfish. However, you can literally go with just about anything, as clownfish are extremely friendly and docile fish and will not fuss or cause problems with any of our fish. In fact, I'd actually be more worried about the clownfish getting hurt than them hurting somebody else. Same thing when it comes to crustaceans and stuff like that. They're not going to hurt any snails or crabs or shrimp. They're just not going to do it. If anything, the crabs might hurt or wound the clownfish, so always be careful about that. Now, last but not least, corals. So will these clownfish hurt corals? Will they damage them? Anything like that? From what I've seen online with other people keeping clownfish and corals, and my personal experience with my clownfish and my few corals, it's no problem. They're not going to harm corals, they're not going to pick at them. If anything, they might go swim in and out of them like it's an enemy if they don't have one. So, unless the coral's going to die if a clownfish touches it, basically, it'll be perfectly fine. Because the worst they can do is rub up against it. So, when it comes to clownfish and salinity, aka how salty your salt water is, it really doesn't matter. I'm assuming that you know what you're doing and you know how to have a saltwater tank and make salt water, but they can tolerate a very diverse range. They can tolerate relatively salty salt water. They can tolerate relatively non-salty salt water. It really doesn't matter with these guys. So basically, as long as you can keep it stable and keep the salt where it's supposed to be, where it's not super high, not super low, they'll be perfectly fine. They are very hardy fish, and salinity should not be a problem. I keep my clownfish in 2.2 and 2.6. The one that's 2.6 is 2.6 because I have corals in the tank, and corals need a higher salinity. If you're not keeping corals in the tank like this one, you should probably keep it around 2.2 to 2.3, and your clownfish will be very happy. So now we're going to talk about feeding your clownfish. So when it comes to feeding your clownfish, it's the same as everything else. It's very simple. Just feed them some brine shrimp / Midas shrimp, or pellets, flakes, preferably a mixture of all three, and you'll have some very happy, healthy clownfish. I would recommend you feed your clownfish every single day on a consistent schedule. So if you feed them every night before you turn the lights off, then feed them every night before you turn the lights off. You could probably feed them every other day, but I would definitely not recommend feeding them multiple times in the same day. And that's basically it when it comes to feeding. It's very simple, just like everything else. So when it comes to lighting and heating your clownfish, lighting's nothing special. If you want to get a light to grow corals, then get a light to grow corals. If you don't care about growing corals, get basic light. When it comes to heating, keep them around 77, 78. It's why I keep both of my pairs at, and they do absolutely fantastic at it. Very warm temperature, and they seem to absolutely love it. When it comes to filtration, literally just buy some $20 filter from a Petco, PetSmart, Amazon, really doesn't matter, and your clownfish will do just splendid. And that's basically it. The final thing I want to talk about is just how personable these fish are. These are by far one of the most personable saltwater fish in my opinion. I do have a blenny that I'd argue is more personable than them, but they will look at you. They will come up to the surface and eat out of your hand. They will follow you. They are water puppies. That is the best way to describe them. They are water puppies. They are absolutely splendidful, lovely. There are not enough words to describe how nice they are. To sum it all up, these fish are extremely personable and just very nice and aware fish. They're pretty awesome in my opinion. Hence the reason I have 2 pairs of them instead of just 1. So this is the end of the video, and the last thing I'm going to talk about, and it's, are these guys the best fish to start out with? Absolutely yes. Unless you want to start with a crab or a snail, these guys are the absolute best. They're super hardy, super personable, and just everything's perfect about them. You cannot get a more perfect fish to start out with. So if I had to recommend starter fish, gotta be a clownfish. It is so amazing. Of course, if I was recommending a starting fish, I would probably say freshwater, not saltwater. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, go check out my TikTok and Instagram for high quality footage and photos in the description below. See ya!
3, 2, 1.